Hey guys, welcome to my channel. If you are new here, I would love for you to subscribe and stick around if you love this kind of content. And if you've already subscribed, thank you so much for being here. I am so encouraged by all of the love and support that you guys have shown as I've gotten started here on this brand new personal channel of mine. And I'm really excited to connect with you guys in more of a personal way here versus on our family channel. I know a lot of you guys have come from our family channel, and so I am just so appreciative of you guys being here. So today I wanted to do more of a sit down kind of storytelling type video, just sharing more about my past and just kind of my journey of motherhood. So I have 7 kids, and a lot of you guys know kind of that story of how we became parents at a really young age, honestly, from some of the videos that we've done on our family channel. But today I wanted to share a little bit more about just what it was like for me personally, becoming a mom at a young age and all the way up to now being a mom of 7 kids. It's been quite the interesting roller coaster at times, and has just been an incredible journey for me. And so I wanted to kind of give a more of an intimate perspective into that process for you guys today. So if you've seen the video that Stephen and I made on our family channel almost 2 years ago for our anniversary, we talked about how we became parents at a very young age. I was 17 years old when I was pregnant with my daughter Reese, and Stephen was 19. So we were still kids, teenagers, and it was honestly a really scary time for us. You know, it was not something that we had planned. And so there was a lot of what ifs, you know, and what's gonna happen, and are we gonna be okay? Are we gonna be good parents? Just a lot of questions at that time. And so I was honestly very, very nervous about becoming a mom at such a young age. But I can honestly say that it was one of the greatest things that has ever happened to me. Our daughter Reese is one of the biggest blessings we've ever received. And so even though it was scary, and even though we weren't feeling very prepared at the time, I'm so grateful that God saw fit to give us our daughter. It set us on the path to parenthood and changed the course of our lives in one of the best ways possible. So our daughter Reese is our firstborn. She's now 17 years old, and she is such an incredible human being. She's one of my favorite people on earth. She's funny, she's witty, she's smart, she's driven. She's definitely got that firstborn personality. She is a leader and just confident and such a strong person, and I admire her in more ways than I can even express. I'm gonna totally cry on this video. I didn't expect to cry. I'm just so grateful to be her mom. She's just such a blessing, and so I'm just so grateful that I get to be her mom. And I think back to those times when she was first born and I would be rocking her in the rocking chair in her little nursery, and just thinking about, you know, what this tiny little human is going to grow up to be like, and just already feeling such a fierce love for her, even though we were kids and we were dirt poor and we just didn't have anything at that time. I just think that there was just such a love and just a motherly instinct that kicked in immediately, where I would do anything for her. I just wanted to give her the world, and I knew right then and there we were gonna be okay. Like, no matter what we went through, no matter how hard it was gonna be, we were totally gonna be okay. I knew it even in the very beginning. So when Reese was born, I was 18 years old and Stephen was 20. And yeah, we were just starting out in life and had no clue what we were doing. We were really just learning as we went. But we had a lot of determination and a lot of joy, and that's what got us through those early years. We were working really hard to provide for her and just taking it a day at a time. So then when I was 20 years old and Reese was almost 2 is when I found out that I was expecting our daughter Kira. And I love that our girls are close enough in age that they really grew up doing things together. They are almost 2.5 years apart, and so they've been very, very close from the beginning. And I look back on those early years of our time with just the girls, that we'd call them, and it was just such a joyful time in our lives. We really enjoyed being parents. They really kept us on our toes and made us laugh all the time. Kira has a really big personality. She's very spunky and witty and goofy and loud. She loves to sing all the time, and so you can always hear her singing something from the other room, and I love that. She's actually very, very gifted in singing, and so I think that's probably something that she's going to probably do as she gets older in some capacity. empathy. But yeah, we were very, very happy as a family of 4 for quite a few years, and life felt very good. It felt like our hands were full, our hearts were full. We were staying busy trying to raise 2 young daughters, and we couldn't have really asked for much more. But Stephen and I both did have a strong passion for adoption and had been exposed to adoption and foster care in various ways growing up. And so that's something that we had talked about even when we were dating. We knew that someday we probably wanted to pursue adoption or foster care in some capacity. And so when Reese and Kira were about 2 and 4 or 3 and 5, we decided to start the process to become foster parents. And so we actually went through all of the training and all of that in Texas, where we lived at the time. And we really felt like that was the path that we were going to take. And then Stephen took a job immediately after finishing those classes. Really unexpectedly, we took a job out of the state of Texas in St. Louis. And so relocating to St. Louis, we needed to either go through all of the foster care training again for the state of Missouri, or we could just go ahead and start the adoption process. And so we were calling around different agencies and just trying to get a good bearing for what was going to be the right step for us. Having just relocated, Stephen was actually traveling a good bit, which would make foster care very difficult because you can't really travel out of state with foster kids. And so that meant that either he was going by himself and me and the kids would be behind, without him. And that didn't really feel like the right fit for our family. The girls and I had always gone with Stephen when he would travel for various events, doing music and things like that. And so we really decided at that point that adoption was going to be the better path for our family. So we began interviewing different agencies and deciding where we wanted to adopt from. We were open to pretty much anything. We were open to domestic adoption, to international adoption, to sibling groups, really anything. We just began by praying and trying to educate ourselves on the various types of adoption and just see what was going to feel like the right fit for our family. So as we were making these calls to different agencies, a lot of them were asking us to consider international adoption, and particularly Ethiopia. At the time, there was such a need for Ethiopian adoptions, and the orphanages in Ethiopia were just overflowing from the AIDS epidemic. So as we began to really research and educate ourselves on Ethiopian adoption, we really fell in love with Ethiopia and the culture and just the beauty of the people. There was just so much that we loved about Ethiopia, and so we really felt like that was going to be the right choice for our family. So we submitted our application to an agency and got on the waiting list, and we told them we were open to sibling groups, we were open to children that were already waiting, because a lot of times there is a wait list for young, healthy infants, but there are a lot of amazing kids who might be just a little bit older or have some special needs that are waiting for families already. And so we wanted to really be kind of open-handed into what that was going to look like for us and let God decide which children he put into our family. So almost immediately after starting the adoption process, our agency sent us a newsletter with waiting children on it, and Jude and Liam's profile was on there. They were a sibling group waiting, and so I saw their profile and something in me just stopped. There was actually a lot going on at the time, but I just could not take my eyes off of that email and the photo of them and just reading the information that the agency had sent. And I just felt like we at least needed to stop and pray about the possibility of adopting this sibling group. So I took that email to Stephen that afternoon and I showed it to him and I said, I think these might be our sons. And we both honestly cried as we read over the information and prayed over these sweet boys. And then we asked our agency if there was a way to go ahead and just submit a referral for these boys. And they said yes. And we started the adoption process. It was honestly a pretty quick process. It was like 9 months start to finish. Before we were able to bring them home. And so it was an incredible journey for us. We went to Ethiopia twice. The first time is for the court date, and so we were able to meet them and spend some time with them and bond with them, and it was absolutely incredible just what was happening in those first encounters. It was just such a precious, precious time. But then we had to actually fly back home and wait for the courts to approve us to bring the boys home, and that was a really difficult time. We had to wait several months to be able to go back to get them, and there were a lot of questions in our mind at that time, having met them, having spent time with them and played with them, and you know, if they were going to remember that we had left and then come back, and what they were going to think about all of that, or if they were even going to remember us. It was really hard to leave, but when we did go back, it was incredible to see. They not only remembered us, they were very, very happy to see us. I remember Liam actually jumping down a set of stairs. We were standing at the bottom of these stairs when they saw us, and Liam literally jumped into our arms, and they were just hugging us and kissing us and saying, "Mommy, Daddy, Mommy, Daddy." So we were so excited to be able to finally bring them home. I know a lot of times the adoption process can be much, much longer than 9 months to a year, but it still felt like such a long time to be waiting to bring home these children who you already love so much. And so it was such an exciting time to be able to bring them home. So Reese and Kira were about 7 and 5 when we adopted the boys, and they had stayed with my mom while we went to Ethiopia because it was a little bit of a harder trip, and we wanted to be able to really focus on helping the boys to feel safe and secure, and especially adopting 2 children at one time. We felt like we really needed to be able to focus on that. And so when we brought the boys home, they met us at the airport, and I remember them getting out of the car, and we walked up and they just all threw their arms around each other. Jude and Liam were hugging and kissing Kira and Reese, and there was lots of laughter and giggles, and it was a really, really sweet meeting for all of our kids. That was one of the biggest things that we prayed for, is that our kids would be able to bond and just love each other from the get-go. And it was really cool to see how much that did happen and how much they really loved each other and enjoyed playing with each other from the very beginning. One of the things I remember the most about Jude and Liam when we first brought them home, because they were 3 and almost 5 when we brought them home, was just their joy and their excitement over everything. And I think about how many people would also mention this to us if we would go to church or go to a restaurant or anything. They were so excited about everything. Everything was so new and so interesting to them, and everyone noticed it. It's similar to our son Lincoln, how excited he is about things, but they were just so excited. I remember one time in particular where I had done a bunch of the boys' laundry, and I brought it upstairs to their room so that I could fold it, and they were playing in their room, and I just dumped it out onto the bed so that I could fold it all up, and they walked over and they were so excited to see all of the clean clothes. They were picking up each of the pieces, and they were like, yeah, like so excited. You would have thought that they had a brand new set of clothing, and it was just so sweet to see their excitement over something so small. And honestly, it was such a profound moment for me just to see such a different perspective coming from having nothing and from just a very different set of circumstances in life, to where there's so much gratitude for even the smallest things that so often we take for granted. That was a moment for me that really shifted my perspective in a lot of ways, because there is so much that we take for granted a lot of times, and to see just through the eyes of innocent children, just how much joy there is to be had in just even those little things, the things that seem little to you, like clean clothes. It just really shaped me in more ways than I can even express. And our boys have done that for us so many times, because they do have such a joy and such a positive outlook on life, and they are so grateful for just the things that so often we overlook or we just take for granted. And so I'm just so grateful that I get to be their mom, and I get to witness them growing up into such kind, compassionate, joyful people that are going to make such a difference in this world. And time certainly flies, because Jude is already 15 years old and Liam is about to turn 13. So that is absolutely crazy, but it's been such an amazing, amazing journey for us. So about a year after bringing the boys home, everyone had really adjusted and settled in well, and life felt good. It felt very full, but I remember telling Stephen, would I be crazy if I wanted to have another baby? And he said, no, I think that's a great idea. You know, we had these 4 amazing kids, and why not have another one? You know, children are a blessing, and we were very much enjoying being parents. And so we tried for another baby, and I ended up getting pregnant, and then shortly after miscarrying. And that was very, very difficult. I actually miscarried the night before Stephen's birthday. And so I remember spending that entire day of his birthday in bed crying that year, and feeling horribly guilty because I couldn't function. I was just distraught. I was just overcome with grief. And it was a very, very sad time for our family. And I began to have a lot of other health problems as well. It felt like my body was shutting down. My immune system was horrible. I was getting sick all the time. My hair was falling out. My teeth were deteriorating. I was having just all these horrible mood swings and just so many health problems. And so I was going from doctor to doctor trying to figure out what was wrong with me, and having all these weird, mysterious stomach pains that I would go to the ER for because it felt like I was dying. And nobody had any answers. It was so perplexing, and it just felt like my body was shutting down on itself. I ended up having another miscarriage over the Christmas break, and Stephen and I nicknamed that year the year from hell, because it was honestly one of the hardest years of our lives. There was a lot of other things going on that were very difficult as well, but for me, my health was just making it so impossible to even function. And so I really was struggling, and I remember making an appointment with a natural doctor after seeing so many specialists and nobody having any answers. And I went to this holistic doctor. I remember sitting in her office and just weeping as I told her how it felt like I was dying and my body had completely shut down. And I just explained all of the symptoms I was having, and she told me in that very first meeting that she was pretty sure that she knew what was going on with my body, and she wanted to do a blood panel to confirm her suspicions that I had a condition called MTHFR, where your body does not properly absorb B vitamins, and it can lead to miscarriages and a lower immune system and super low energy and just all of the symptoms that I was also having. And so that test came back positive, and she told me to go home and to take a pregnancy test as well, because a lot of the symptoms I was having looked like I might also be pregnant. And so I went home and I took the special B vitamins that were going to help me with that condition, and I took a pregnancy test and it was positive. And that is our Ethan. We called him our miracle baby after multiple miscarriages. He was such a joy to welcome into our family, and guys, this boy is something else. He is so full of energy and shenanigans and always keeping us on our toes and laughing so much. But he's certainly mellowed a lot. He's 7 now. And so those toddler years, though, that was something else. He gave us a run for our money, and we were either laughing or crying over something he was up to. But I had a memory pop up recently from a few years back where he had gotten into all of Kira's paints, and he had squirted them out all over his hands and mixed them around, and he was trying to paint our cat. Sable, our kitty, had handprints all over her, and he just wanted to see what the kitty would look like with paint on her. And we have a video on Facebook where I was confronting him and I was asking him what in the world possessed him to paint the kitty, and he just looked back at me so innocently and was just saying, I just wanted to see her with colors all over her. I just wanted to see what would happen, you know? And he wasn't trying to be naughty. He just wanted to see what the kitty looked like with paint on. And so there are so many stories like that of our Ethan, but he is also one of the sweetest boys you will ever meet. Every morning he comes and climbs in bed with me, and he will snuggle up and give me hugs and kisses and tell me, Mommy, I love you more than the sun and the moon and the stars and the whole entire space. And he'll name anything and everything he can think of that's big to show me how much he loves me. And he's so affectionate and sweet and just such a joy to parent, even if he is getting into things and being mischievous a lot of the times as well. He's such a sweet boy. So about the time that Ethan was 2, we were living in Dallas at the time, and Stephen had a really good job there, and so we were living very comfortably and doing really well. And I remember looking around and thinking, Surely there is room in our home and in our hearts for one more child. There's so many children in the world that need families and need parents. And so I remember going to Stephen and saying, what do you think about adopting again? And he was very much on board from the very beginning. He was ready to adopt again. He said, we have room in our car for one more kid, and so let's do it. And we were actually looking to older child adoption at that time, and really wanting to educate ourselves on that, because we had heard that, you know, a lot of times older kids don't get adopted. Most of the time it's babies and toddlers who are adopted, and there's a lot of amazing older kids who wait for families and age out of the system. And the statistics for kids who age out of the system, it's honestly very, very heartbreaking. And so we started really doing research on what it would look like for our family to adopt and if that would be a good fit. And we decided that it would be if we adopted an older girl that could maybe be close in age with Reese and Kira. And so as a family, we talked about it a lot and did a lot of research and prayed a lot, and decided to go ahead and start the adoption process. And we had several friends who had adopted children from China. And we had read that in China, you age out of the system the day that you turn 14. And so that is so heartbreaking, because no child is ready to be on their own at the age of 14. And so we decided to go ahead and start that process. And we saw Penelope's profile on the awaiting children's list for China. And Penelope was actually her profile name, but it was also a name that we absolutely loved. And so we decided to keep that name. We actually asked her when we met her in China. We asked her what if she would want to have an American name as well as her Chinese name, and if she liked the name Penelope. And she told our guide, because, you know, she didn't speak any English at the time, and so we had the guide kind of translating for us. And so we asked her, you know, do you like this name, Penelope? Would you want that to be your American name? And she responded back and she said, oh wow, that's a long name. Okay, yeah, I like that name. And so it was really cool. So that name just stayed with her, but we love the name Penelope. And that was an incredible, incredible journey to bringing our daughter home. And I will say that there's a lot of anxiety and a lot of fear for older children that are being adopted. And so a lot of times it can be a harder transition, because they are much more aware of what they're leaving behind and the risks of going to a new home, and so many questions that they have. You know, am I going to be loved? Am I going to be safe? And a lot of that is kind of through the lens of their past experiences. And so that was something that we certainly saw, a lot of anxiety on everyone's part. But it was really beautiful to see the way that she began to trust us and bond with us pretty quickly, and especially with Stephen, because he's so goofy and funny, and so he helped to really break those walls down pretty quickly. And we also brought all the kids with us to China to adopt her, and so they were able to play with her and help her feel safer, I guess, and just more comfortable knowing that there were all these siblings that were going to love her and play with her. And so that was really incredible to see that begin to happen pretty quickly in the process. But about halfway through the adoption process for Penelope, I began to feel like there was another child that we were supposed to adopt. And I know a lot of people probably think I'm crazy for thinking that. I went to Stephen and I told him I just can't shake this feeling that we are supposed to bring home 2 children from China. And he was a little bit more nervous that time. Honestly, he was thinking, you know, that changes the game quite a bit, because there's a lot more that goes into adopting 2 children than one, obviously. And so he agreed to just pray about it, and we were going to ask our agency if it was okay to even bring home 2 children. The thing with Chinese adoptions is that there are not a lot of siblings needing to be adopted. Most of the time it is one child at a time. And so we asked our agency if it would be okay to adopt 2 unrelated children, and they said that China only allowed that on a case-by-case basis. And so we would have to ask for approval from China, and if China approved us, we would also have to have approval from our agency that they felt like we were prepared and could handle bringing home 2 children. And so that was a multi-month process of doing extra training and waiting for that response from China. And so a few months after we had submitted that, we heard back that China had said yes. And our agency said, yes, if you will go through all this training for older child adoption and for adopting 2 children at one time, just to make sure you have, all the resources available, that you kind of know what to expect, and, just kind of the unique challenges that can come with adopting 2 children, especially 2 unrelated children. So we went through all of that, and we saw our son Lincoln's profile with our agency as a waiting child as well. He was 15 months old at the time, and I just remember staring at his profile picture and just knowing in my heart that we were supposed to adopt this little boy. And there were a lot of unknowns with adopting Lincoln. We knew that he had some special needs. We knew that there were some medical needs and some medical unknowns. We knew he had had a stroke as a baby, and that they were not sure why he had had a stroke. And so we knew bringing him home that we were going to have him seen by a lot of different specialists and try to get to the bottom of what was going on with that. So when we got to China, we were in Lincoln's province first, and so his adoption process was the first one to be completed. And I just remember at first he was very nervous and shy and a little scared looking at this big, huge family who had come to adopt him. But it was really sweet to see within that first day him start to warm up to us, and we saw some really sweet smiles and giggles. I remember Stephen tossing him in the air and making him laugh, and we were feeding him ice cream to get him to smile, and he was just so sweet. It was such a precious time for our family. And I remember that first night we had a little crib next to our bed in the hotel room, and I remember laying him down and patting his back as he was going to sleep, and him just sighing really big, just letting out this big sigh as he fell asleep. And I remember thinking, that's exactly how we all felt, like, it's gonna be okay, like, we are gonna make it through this, and we're all gonna be okay. And just knowing at that time, like, there were still so many unknowns, so many things that were gonna be needing to take place once we got home with him, but just knowing in our hearts it was gonna be okay no matter what. So that was a really precious time for our family. And that's when we went down to the southern part of China and met with Penelope, and she signed her adoption papers after a couple of days of getting to know us, and I think kind of feeling us out and making sure like we weren't just crazy people, that she felt safe enough to go with us, because older children get to sign if they want to be adopted. And so she had every right to say no and not go with us. And there was honestly a time where we thought maybe she wouldn't, maybe she didn't want to go with us. But we were obviously so overjoyed after a few days of her spending time with us that she agreed to be adopted and come home with us. And so that whole trip was such an amazing trip for our entire family. I feel like we all bonded in such deep ways, and so it was absolutely incredible. So it's been a little over 3 years now that we have been home as a family of 9, and it has been a wild ride, guys. I feel like in many ways we've lived more life in these past 3 years than all of the other years combined. It's been crazy and amazing, and we've been through a lot of really tough challenges as well. Lincoln ended up needing brain surgeries, and so that was really scary, but he came through those amazingly well, and he's now walking and talking some, and just started preschool and is just doing amazingly well. And Penelope ended up needing a surgery for her cleft palate, and so she's doing very well with that, and she is on a multi-year process of restoring her health to her mouth and all these dental procedures and things. There's still a couple of years left on that, but she's doing very well and making a lot of great progress there. And so, yeah, life feels really good at this point. A lot of people continue to ask if we are going to have any more children, biologically or through adoption. And the answer that we always give is we don't know, because I am open to whatever the Lord would have for us. But at this point in time, it does feel like our hands are very full. I honestly don't know. There are days where I feel like I want to adopt 10 more children and just fill our home with lots and lots of children. And I honestly, who knows, maybe that might happen. But, you know, there are other times where I just feel very thankful for the family that I do have, and that, you know, if we don't have any more children, I would be very happy with that as well. And so we'll see what the future holds. I'm just so grateful for the family that we do have and these amazing 7 children that we are raising. And it's just a joy and an honor to be their parents. And that doesn't mean that there aren't challenging times and tough times, but I do love this quote that I think about all the time, that hard does not mean bad. And that's certainly true. Some of the best things in life are worth fighting for. They can be hard. They take time to invest in and to grow, but it's so worth it in the end. And that's certainly the case with children. They are an absolute blessing and a joy and a privilege to be able to raise. So yeah, it's been 17 years since becoming a mom, and when I think back to those early days of Reese being a newborn, I don't think I could have ever imagined what it would look like all these years later, but I wouldn't change a single thing. So yeah, that's just a little bit about my journey of motherhood and how we grew our family. And we get a lot of questions about adoption and homeschooling and special needs and that kind of thing. And so if you have any questions or things that you would like me to cover over on this channel, you can leave those in a comment, or you can find me on Instagram and message me over there. I love talking to you guys and just getting feedback and just hearing you guys' stories as well. There's so many of you guys who are also on similar journeys or on very different journeys, and just sharing what life is like for us and the ups and downs. I think it's so important to be able to be there for each other, be able to encourage each other, and just spur each other on. And so I'm just very grateful for the way that you guys have done that for me and for our family, and hopefully we can be an encouragement to you guys as well. So thank you so much for being here and joining me today. I would love for you to subscribe if you haven't already, and I do plan on doing some more of these kind of sit-down videos where I talk about adoption and homeschooling and motherhood and just all that kind of stuff. But today I just wanted to kind of let you guys get to know me a little bit more from a mom perspective. And so thanks for watching, guys. I will see you in my next vlog. Bye.